It's October 15th, 2016, at Pelican Bay State Prison's Security Housing Unit. A folded square of paper slides under a cell door, 3 letters at the top, the number 13, and 1 word underneath. Green light. 8 days later, 2,700 miles away in East Los Angeles, a man named Hector takes 2 bullets to the back of the head while walking his daughter to school. The shooter, 19, has never met Hector or whoever ordered the killing and has never set foot in Pelican Bay. He acted because a note told him to. Refusing would have made him the next target. This wasn't the Cartels or MS-13, this was La M, the Mexican Mafia, a prison gang of fewer than 250 made members that controls every Latino street gang in Southern California, taxes every drug sale in every barrio from Bakersfield to the border, and runs the California prison system from cells the size of a parking space. They don't move weight across borders or own submarines and jets. They have absolute authority over roughly 30,000 foot soldiers who die before disobeying. This is the story of how 13 teenagers in a juvenile detention center in 1957 built one of the most efficient criminal organizations in American history, how a one-legged heroin addict born in Croatia became godfather of Mexican-American organized crime, and how a folded note called a kite can travel from a windowless cell in Northern California to end a life within a week. Despite what television suggests, La M is not a cartel. It's something cartels fear. Cartels are businesses. They produce and move drugs and exist in Mexico. La M exists in American prisons. It doesn't grow poppies or cook meth. It taxes everyone who sells those drugs on American streets. Cartels supply, La M collects. Don't pay and you don't sell. Keep selling without paying and you don't breathe. The story starts in 1957 at the Duell Vocational Institution in Tracy, California, a holding pen for the state's worst juvenile offenders. 13 young Chicano inmates gathered in the yard, led by 16-year-old Luis Huero Buff Flores, already a veteran of 3 street gangs from Hawaiian Gardens. He'd watched black and white inmates organize while Mexicans got picked apart, robbed, and run off the yard, and decided that would stop. The 13 founders chose their number deliberately. M is the 13th letter for Mexican and Mafia. That number became sacred, tattooed on knuckles and hand-signed in every cell block. Today it marks any Southwest street gang as a sureño, subordinate to La M. Every gang wearing the number 13 from Florencia to 18th Street answers to those original 13 kids. The founding rules were simple: total loyalty, blood in and blood out, no informing, no weakness before another race, no expulsion. Once Aime, always Aime. The only exit was death. By 1961, the gang had over 300 members across California's prisons. By 1965, it controlled the heroin trade inside every major institution, smuggled in by wives, mothers, and corrupt guards. Then came Joe Morgan, and everything changed. Born in 1929 to Croatian immigrants, Morgan grew up in Maravilla, an East LA barrio so Mexican that white kids learned Spanish before English. By 16, he was a stick-up man. At 17, he murdered his lover's husband, hid the body in a car trunk and buried it, serving 6 years. In San Quentin, he lost his right leg below the knee in a construction accident and walked the rest of his life on a wooden prosthetic. 6 feet tall, blue-eyed, one-legged, Morgan became the only white man ever fully accepted as a made member of the Mexican Mafia. What he brought wasn't muscle, but vision. Having studied the Italian Mafia from a distance, he understood Cosa Nostra's strength lay in structure and hierarchy, not just violence. He wanted to build a Mexican Cosa Nostra, and by the time he died in 2005, he had. Morgan's strategy was elegant. Since nearly every Latino gang member in Southern California eventually landed in prison and had to pick a side or die, he decreed that every Sureño would pay tribute to La M upon entering the system, protect AME members, carry out orders, and, once released, tax their own neighborhoods at 10% or more. Refused to pay, and the gang got the green light, an operational command authorizing every Sureño everywhere to attack on sight. Shot callers passed the order through kites, and within 72 hours a green light issued at Pelican Bay can reach LA County Jail, Folsom, Corcoran, Calipatria, and every county lockup between. In 1992, La AIM greenlit the entire 18th Street gang for non-payment. 18 members were dead within 6 months, and within a year, 18th Street paid its back tribute and returned to good standing. A handful of men in solitary can shut down a 30,000-member street gang with one piece of paper. The kite is the organization's nervous system, a tightly folded note, often on toilet paper, in codes only members can read, from number ciphers to a Nahuatl Pachuco slang hybrid. Kites travel in shoes, swallowed in balloons, or slipped during attorney visits. A member can write one at 6 a.m. and have someone killed in Las Vegas by midnight, a system refined over 60 years. The federal government has known about La M since 1980, prosecuting dozens under RICO. In 1989, they built Pelican Bay's security housing unit specifically to break the gang. Windowless, inmates spending 22.5 hours a day in an 8-by-10-foot cell. No phone calls, no contact visits, all male screened. Yet the gang kept running California from inside it. Lawyers, protected by attorney-client privilege, funneled kites through compromised paralegals, while female visitors called carnalers memorized messages and delivered them to street-level shot callers within hours. By 2006, the CDC estimated a kite from Pelican Bay could reach any Sureño set in the country within 4 days. Today, that's closer to 24 hours. Rodolfo Cheyenne Cadena, born in 1943 in Boyle Heights, joined La M at 19 at the same Duell institution. By the early 1970s, he was its most respected leader, self-taught in political theory, pushing to evolve La M into a political force and brokering peace with rivals. Some called him the Mexican Che Guevara. The FBI called him the most dangerous prison gang leader in America. On December 17, 1972, while meeting at Chino's California Institution for Men with Nuestra Familia, La M's mortal northern rival, to negotiate a truce, Cadena walked into a setup. 5 Nuestra Familia members stabbed him more than 60 times and threw his body over a railing. He died within minutes at 29. His death triggered a war that has never technically ended. For over 50 years, La M's Sureños and Nuestra Familia's Norteños have killed each other on sight wherever their territories meet. North versus South, 14 versus 13, the line running through California at Bakersfield. Cross it in the wrong colors, and you die. After Cadena's murder, Morgan consolidated power through the late 1970s and 80s, installing shot callers called laveros in every prison and neighborhood, standardizing tax rates at 10% for established gangs and 25% for newcomers, and codifying a written constitution, the Aime Reglas: never testify against a member, never disrespect a member's family, never refuse a direct order. Violations meant an unappealable green light. By 1990, the taxation system generated an estimated $30 million a year, funding lawyers' escapes, executions, and payments to imprisoned members' families, buying absolute lifelong loyalty. Television gets one thing wrong. La M doesn't run drugs across the border and has no presence in Mexico. The Sinaloa Cartel and CJNG need American distribution networks, and those networks are Sureño street gangs. So La M simply charges rent on the whole system. Cartels grow the product, Sureños move it, La M collects. In 2001, federal prosecutors estimated La M controlled, through taxation, more than 50,000 street gang members across Southern California and into Arizona, Nevada, Texas, and as far as Georgia, extracting over $100 million a year, all running upward through a structure Morgan designed from a prison cell. Morgan died of cancer on November 9, 2005, at the Federal Medical Center in Springfield, Missouri, age 76. After more than 50 years of on and off incarceration. EAM members across California's prisons held 3 days of silence in his honor, then resumed operations on the 4th day. That was his real legacy. Not just an organization, but a machine that ran without him. Federal efforts to break La M have repeatedly failed. The largest RICO case in California history in 1995 targeted 22 members, most of whom got life, yet the gang barely flinched, promoting new members within weeks. A 2006 indictment of 40 members and associates produced the same result. Morgan had deliberately decentralized the structure. No single boss, but a council of senior members called the Mesa, so no single removal could collapse the whole. Even total isolation in Pelican Bay's SHU from 1989 to 2015, some inmates spending 20 years there, couldn't sever the chain. The CDC eventually identified at least 12 methods members used to bypass the unit's controls. In 2011, Pelican Bay inmates organized one of the largest prison hunger strikes in American history. 30,000 inmates across 33 institutions, coordinated by 4 alleged EMA leaders in solitary, leading to a 2015 federal settlement limiting indefinite SHU placement, after which the gang's power only grew. In 2017, an indictment in Los Angeles targeted dozens of members operating within the county jail system, with wiretaps capturing them directing tax collection and assaults via smuggled contraband phones. One member was recorded ordering a murder from maximum security, and several deputies were indicted alongside the gang. La M has survived nearly 70 years. While Italian Mafia families were hollowed out and cartels splintered every few years, largely because members simply don't flip. The code of silence is genuinely absolute. Prosecutors have offered witness protection and new identities to members facing life, and almost every offer has been refused, because informing marks an entire bloodline for death, and the gang has the reach to follow through. The rare exception, Rene Boxer Enriquez, who began cooperating in 2003, paid a steep price. His family had to relocate, and he remains incarcerated under permanent threat. He testified to personally ordering or participating in over a dozen killings, saying the only thing he ever truly feared wasn't the federal government, but being branded no good by his own organization. What La M reveals is uncomfortable. The most powerful criminal organization on U.S. soil isn't headquartered in a Sinaloa mansion or a Brooklyn back room. It runs from concrete cells in California prisons led by men in their 50s, 60s, and 70s who haven't seen open sky in decades, armed with nothing but notebooks, lawyers, hand signs, and coded letters, controlling every Latino gang member from San Diego to El Paso to Las Vegas. They took the Sicilian Mafia's model, stripped away the romance, and reduced it to discipline, hierarchy, loyalty, and death. For 67 years, California has tried to incarcerate its way out of the problem, building supermax prisons, isolating leaders in conditions the United Nations classifies as torture, prosecuting relentlessly, yet the gang is stronger than ever. Because the conditions that created it, generational poverty, mass incarceration of young Latinos, and the necessity of gang affiliation for prison survival, haven't changed. Every new prisoner is a potential recruit. Every recruit eventually goes home. Every home becomes a tax base. Morgan understood this back in 1970, telling a fellow member, later relayed in court testimony, that as long as there were prisons in California, there would be a Mexican mafia. As long as there were Mexicans in those prisons, there would be soldiers. And as long as there were drugs on American streets, there would be tax revenue. He said it almost like arithmetic. He was right. He's been dead for over 20 years. The kites still go out. The green lights still get called. The number 13 still governs every Sureño barrio in America. And somewhere tonight, in a windowless cell at Pelican Bay, Corcoran, or Folsom, a man is folding a square of paper, writing 3 letters and a name, sending out an order that will be obeyed before sunrise. That's the real story of La M. Not the violence, but the discipline. Not the killing, but the order. Not the prison, but the system. A criminal organization built so efficiently it outlived its founders, outlasted its prosecutors, and outsmarted the most sophisticated correctional system on earth, using nothing but a pencil and a code.
If you want more deep dives into hidden worlds like this, subscribe now and don't miss the next story.